Hello, good morning or good evening whenever you were watching this. I hope you are doing well. I'm in quarantine, like everyone everywhere right now, and I've been reading a lot of books, so I kind of wanted to talk about some of the books that I've been reading. So far, it has been almost 2 whole months, and I have read 15 books. I'm not a fast reader. Even though I read a lot, I just am someone who takes my time when reading. I like to take everything in. Also, I'm distracted easily. So I really wanted to talk about some of the books because I've been reading some really great books, some meh books. So here are the first 4 books that I have read in quarantine. So the first book that I read is We Hunt the Flame by Hafsa Faizel. This is a YA fantasy told in dual perspectives. Our first perspective is Zafira, also known as the Hunter. She is forced to disguise herself as a man in order to hunt in the Ars. This is the dark forest that is slowly creeping and taking over the land due to some curse of some sort. She is the only person who is able to hunt in the Ars without getting lost in there forever and basically getting eaten by the forest, which is kind of terrifying. Our second perspective is Nasir. He is also known as the Prince of Death. He is the prince of the land, but his father, the Sultan, has basically turned him into his own personal assassin. So as I said, the Ars is starting to grow and take over the lands. So Zafira is sent on a quest to go find a lost artifact that can get rid of the darkness and break this curse that seems to be taking over the land. Now Nasir is sent by the Sultan to also find the artifact, but also kill the hunter. The journey turns out to be a lot more complicated and treacherous than expected, and Zafira and Nasir are forced to team up together in order to uncover the darkness that is taking over. So I really enjoyed this book. The world building is absolutely incredible and just beautiful to read about. Hafsa Faizel is definitely a writer who knows how to use words to paint a picture for you. You also have this added dynamic of it not being based in Western fantasy culture. Hafsa Faizel is also Muslim American, so it is based in an ancient Arabia type setting and actually uses Arabic words, which is something really cool and not something that you see in a lot of mainstream media and books. So I really love learning about that. I also really love Zafir and Nasir's dynamic. Their whole enemies to reluctant allies to maybe something a little bit more is always really good. Listen, I love enemies to lovers. That is my favorite trope if it is done well. If it's done poorly, then it's very aggravating and can very quickly become like a not healthy relationship. The other characters of the story are also really nice to help flesh out the story. I didn't find any of them particularly memorable, however, so there is that. I also had a little bit of a problem with following the journey. There were times I had to go back and reread certain sentences just to follow where they were exactly because they did tend to just go from one point to the next, and it did get a little bit confusing at times. Overall though, I did really enjoy this book. I gave this like a 3.75 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed it. It totally gives me like Robin Hood mixed with like the Grisha trilogy by Leigh Bardugo, those kinds of vibes, which is really cool. I love both of those stories. I just tend to like a little more character driven books, and this tends to be more like action and description based, which there's nothing wrong with that, just not normally the type of thing I like. The second book that I read in quarantine was My Plain Jane by Cynthia Hand, Jody Meadows, and Brody Ashton. Did I get them all? Oh, hell yeah. Also known as the Lady Janies. So this is a retelling of Jane Eyre through a really unique modern lens. So it still takes place in the 1800s when Jane Eyre normally takes place. Jane Eyre can see dead people. Yeah, it's a ghost story. Her best friend is a ghost, and she wants to make sure that nobody finds out. In order to avoid being recruited by the Society of Wayward Spirits, wow, that is hard to say, which is basically the 1800s Ghostbuster, she takes up the governess position at Thornfield Hall. She ends up catching some feelings for a certain Mr. Rochester, who's not as he may seem. And then the story continues as you would expect, and then not quite as you expect. Our second character that we follow is Charlotte Bronte. Yes, Charlotte Bronte, aka the author of Jane Eyre. That is a character in this. Charlotte is an aspiring writer. She is determined to get the scoop on what is happening with Jane. There is something mysterious and she is going to find out. Lastly, our third perspective is Alexander, who is an agent for the Society of Wayward Spirits. He is desperately trying to recruit Jane as he knows that she has the sight and also some other mysterious way of getting along with ghosts and getting ghosts to do what she wants them to do. He knows that not everything is as it seems at Thornfield, and he is going to uncover it. The first half of the book is Jane Eyre as we know it, with some ghosts thrown in there, and then things get a little twisty. It becomes quite the fun ghost hunting adventure. I absolutely love this book. It is so fun, and while it still follows Jane Eyre, as I said, it does have a modern lens, so there's definitely some fun commentary all throughout the book. The added elements of Charlotte Bronte being a character is also super neat. And also ghosts, but not really spooky, scary ghosts. While it is like a fun, quirky ghost hunting adventure, it also has like a lot of heart to it, and there's definitely some moments that make me go, aw, that's so cute. I ended up giving this book a 4.5. Honestly, could probably give it like a 4.75. I don't know if it's quite made it to the 5 stars, but it is like right there. The third book that I've read in quarantine is Crier's War by Nina Varela, I believe is how her name is pronounced. So this is a sci-fi fantasy. In this world, there are those who are human and those that are made, aka the Autome. Autome were originally designed to be the playthings of the royals and the upper class. But they rebelled. They didn't like that. They wanted power. So now they have bent humans to their will. Alia is a human servant and had everything taken away from her when an Autome raid killed her whole family. She is now part of the human resistance trying to take down the Autome monarchy. After she saves Princess Crier's life, she has a new position as the princess's handmaiden. Her plan is to take them down from the inside. But Princess Crier isn't quite how she expected. Crier has always felt different. She's always been prepared to take over her father's rule. However, her recent betrothal to an Autome fanatic and purist, things get a little bit different. She starts to question what makes the kind so different, and she starts to see humans in a different light, especially Alia. This was a really good read. It's very sci-fi fantasy with a sort of dystopian feel, and it had a lot of political intrigue. Crier and Alia's whole journey throughout the book is so interesting, and you just see them change and grow, which I love. I love good character arcs, and they are constantly questioning everything that they know. This is another enemies to lover, which is always my favorite. However, the romance isn't the thing that is like forefront. There is so many twists and turns that happen throughout the book. So it is always nice to get something that isn't just like romance, romance, romance. It's just a little bit sprinkled in there. World building is also fabulous. My one complaint is there is a little bit of an unnecessary love triangle. I hate love triangles. I'm sorry. There it is. Twilight ruined it for me. Or Hunger Games. I don't know. I don't think love triangles are ever necessary. I ended up giving this one a 4.5 out of 5 stars. I really liked it. Also, the cover is gorgeous. Not that we judge books for their covers here, but like we judge them a little bit. The last book that I'm going to be talking about in this video is Emperor and Ash by Lyra Selene. This is another young adult fantasy, one of my favorite genres, so I'll probably be talking about a lot of those in the future. Sylvie is an orphan who grew up in the Dusk lands with the sisters. She has never known who her family is or where she comes from. However, she knows that she is destined for bigger things. She has the ability to create illusions and therefore believes that she deserves a place at the Ember Empress's court, along with the other legacies and those who have these abilities amongst the nobility. When she arrives at the Pally, however, she is put to the test. The Empress makes Sylvie earn her place amongst the court through tests and playing the political game. Not everything at the court is as it seems, including her sponsor Sunder, who is cruel and rude and kind of tortures her a lot. As she navigates through court, she has to determine whether this is what she really wants and if it is worth all of this. So I wasn't in love with this book. The story and the world building were really cool, and the magic system was interesting and definitely unique. However, I could not stand the main character. Her whole thing is that she deserves a place in the court and she has to be there because she has these powers, and it just turns her into this like very whiny, very entitled, doesn't really care about anyone else type character. And listen, I am here for unlikable main characters. I don't think that every main character has to be like the best and you have to agree with everything that they do. However, her whole basis is just like, well, I deserve it. And that got really annoying after a while. Basically, everyone in this book was very one-dimensional and things just happened without explanation. And the plot didn't really get that interesting until about halfway through, when there started to be a little bit like, oh, there's something more. It also did two of my least favorite things: a bad enemies to lovers plotline and a love triangle. Like I've said before, I love enemies to lovers. However, if the enemy is someone who has been torturing them the entire time, why did they fall for them? I gotta say, this is about like a 2, maybe 2.5 stars for me. I'm probably not gonna continue with the rest of the series, unfortunately. It just wasn't my thing. I wasn't into it. Some people might like it, but unfortunately, this one was just not for me. So those were 4 of the books that I have read. I am going to continue making these videos. I have a huge stack that I would just love to talk about, all the different books I've been reading. I've been trying to branch out and read some more books. I've been trying to finish the books on my bookshelf that I just haven't gotten to. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this, feel free to subscribe. I'm probably going to be making more videos like this because I got a lot of time on my hands. Let's be real, I'm not going back to work until probably January. Hope all of you have a wonderful day, and until next time, bye!